Coming up on today's show, I talk about product and process quite a bit here, but behind that are the people who make it happen. And today's guest knows a thing or two about that. Welcome. I'm your host, Kurt Stahle, that plastics guy. If you're new here, well, thanks for joining us. But this is where I share my 4 decades of plastics industry experience with you. I'll educate, share stories, showcase innovative products, and always discuss the topics and trends that affect our industry. Today's podcast is sponsored by Fresh Start Polymers, manufacturers of commercial purging compound that is sold across Canada by my company, Simcoe Plastics Limited, where we truly have a passion for polymers. You can visit us at simcoeplastics.com or contact us at info@simcoeplastics.com. Today, I'm very pleased to introduce Darryl Gratrix from the production manager at Moulded Precision Components, or MPC, in Shanty Bay, Ontario, which is right next door to Barrie. Darryl is a frequent contributor to LinkedIn on the topic of skilled trades. What caught my attention recently were pictures taken at MPC with our local MPP, Member of Provincial Parliament, Jill Dunlop. Darryl has a passion for the development and promotion of skilled trades, and today we're going to discuss that topic with him and why skilled trades equal a healthy manufacturing sector here in Ontario. Hi, Darryl. Welcome to the show, and thank you for taking the time today.
Well, thank you for having me, Kurt. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you as well for noticing my efforts. The skilled trades are incredibly important to me, and I look forward to our conversation.
Yeah, indeed they are. And I really have to commend you for all the posts and the responses to things on LinkedIn. I know it is not something that can be done, quick. It takes time, and you have to formulate good things to say. And I just think you do a fantastic job. So I have taken note of all your LinkedIn activity over the past months, probably more than just a few months. And I've been impressed with the scope of the materials that you post. And of course, most noticeably around the discussion and the promotion of skilled trades in Ontario. I think it's fantastic, and I'm glad that you're passionate about it. Can you tell me a little bit about your background, what you do at MPC, and how you turned your attention to skilled trades?
Yeah, I'd love to, Kurt. As we get older, advance in our careers, and I don't want to say come into the last quarter, but maybe the last third of our career, it's, I've been tugging on my heartstrings a lot that we need to be sharing, training the next generation. That was kind of how it started. And then a couple of years ago, I got involved with OEAP and joined the advisory committee for precision skills, so mold making, tool and die, and general machinist. And that tug on my heartstrings continued to grow into more, not only training the next generation, but speaking out and trying to attract the next generation of skilled trades into the trades. And then once I started digging into this, just realizing, I knew that for us mold makers, they're almost impossible to find. Yeah. Tool and die makers, tricky as well, and CNC people, but I didn't realize just what a shortage there was across all industries. I think there's approximately 50 ticketed trades in Canada with apprenticeships.
Okay.
Just seeing the need there, and that we truly do need to try and attract the next generation into those trades. And it's just kind of taken off from there. But in terms of my background, if we go way, way back, and that's another thing that has kind of spurred me on, and I didn't make this up. This is a quote from Ed Milet, and I'm not sure who here heard it from, but something that stuck with me is, you're most qualified the person that you used to be. So how? And So how that is, relates to me is growing up, I was not what you would consider a hands-on kid. I mean, I helped my dad with when he was doing house renos and helped some uncles on the farm, but I wasn't out fixing cars.
Right.
And that's always been the story of the skilled trades is, oh well, you got to be that kid who's out there fixing cars all the time if you're going to get into the skilled trades. But that just wasn't me growing up. In high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to go to university. And as we talked about earlier, at that time, the advice from guidance counselors was, oh, just go to university. It doesn't matter what you take. You'll get a job.
Right.
So anyways, I ended up going to university. Went to the University of Guelph and got a 3-year BA in geography. But by my third year, I realized I was going to have to do something different to get a job. So, and I knew nothing about tool and die, knew nothing about what was involved, but I'd heard that there were lots of jobs there. During my university time, I'd used AutoCAD and some other softwares and enjoyed that. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what got me started. And then I went for a tour at a plant up in Penetang where we had a family acquaintance just to kind of get a better idea of what was there. And, I think it was the tool room supervisor took me for a tour. And of course he was the old school, all these guys worked with their hands growing up and working on cars. And fortunately I didn't listen to him. And I went to Georgia and anyways took the 2-year. At that time, I think it was called like mechanical engineering technician, tool and die. And took that during my co-op. After first year, I worked at F&P Manufacturing in Tottenham, some more on the stamping side, and graduated Georgia and ended up working at F&P for 15, 16 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then it was time for a change. And I was looking for something closer to home and kind of stumbled across MPC. And that was when I made my switch over to the plastic injection industry. And yeah, that was over 11 years ago. So when I started here, I was running a sync EDM, did that for a couple of years, moved up into a supervisor position in the CNC shop, spent 5 years as the tool room manager, and then just recently moved over to production manager. So it's been, with this trade, there's so many different facets that, here I am 25 plus years later, and I'm still learning tons every day and still have a lot to learn.
Yeah, that's what keeps me coming back to every day. It's a learning opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
So during this time, sorry, go ahead.
Yep, go ahead. Nope.
During this time, when did it sort of dawn on you that the skilled trades need to have more exposure or more promotion, or there has to be more awareness? When did the light bulb go on for you?
Well, I think it's one of those things that's been building over the years. I'm sure you experience the same thing being in the plastics industry. If you go to social events or, family functions and people ask you what you do and you start telling them about injection molding and, they get that deer in the headlights.
Yes.
And it's hard to explain.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, when you look back, it's not many people know about what a tool and die maker, mold maker do, millwright, steam fitters. Most people are aware of electricians, plumbers, carpenters.
Sure.
In terms of our manufacturing trades, there's not a lot of general public knowledge out there about them.
Yep.
And yeah, I would say it's definitely over the last couple of years where I realized that it's a big job to correct that.
Yes.
But we've got to start with education, and it's got to start early. Start with the students and the parents, teachers, guidance counselors. We know everyone working in the education system has come through the university system.
Yeah.
So, through no fault of their own, they're just not aware of how you get into apprenticeships or the trades.
Yeah, precisely. We
Yeah.
were, I'll just share with the audience before we started recording, we had a little chat and I had commented about during my time in high school, which was during the 1980s, if someone wanted to go down the path of trades, it was practically frowned upon. Like your only path was to go to university and get a degree. And there just didn't seem to be the openness to entertain anything else. And I think we're paying a price for that right now. And in my opinion, if you have the discipline and the knowledge of a trade and business, like good business acumen, business sense, I think you could have an absolutely wonderful career and a very good livelihood ahead of you.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. When was that? Last time flies. Last Tuesday, I was at Nottawasaga Pines High School in Angus and speaking to 4 different grade 10 careers classes about the skilled trades just to try and, spread that awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And, as I used the example of a plumber electrician, I said, if you get your ticket after a few years, you've got experience and you go out, start your own business. I said, if you have to call a plumber and electrician to your house, I said, any idea what they charge an hour? And no one really knew. I'm like, well, the last time I had to, it was $125 an hour.
Right.
And I said, you know what? What's that? If you add that up, what is that for a yearly salary? And no one really answered. And I'm like, well, that's $250,000 a year.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know about your teacher, but I know that's a heck of a lot more than I'm making a year. And for very, very little startup costs too, right? You need an old truck or van, some hand tools, and away you go.
Yeah. Yeah. And your certification to do whatever trade you want to do. But
Yeah.
versus coming out of university where there may not be a guarantee of anything. And if you go down a path that, there isn't readily employment, you're practically turning around, going back to school to learn something else. So yeah, it certainly is a challenge, and I really commend you for reaching out to schools too. I didn't realize that was something that you were doing, but I think maybe it leads us into the second question. The responses that you've had on LinkedIn or within your own company, MPC, what are you doing? What are the responses? How are you reaching out to the community? You talked about going to a school, but how is the LinkedIn social media interaction going?
It's been pretty positive, and some of my posts have even focused on more the culture building side of things. Mm-hmm. As you know from being around that in tool rooms, that has typically also been an issue where they were pretty negative spots to work, which also made it hard to attract people there. So I've had some people reaching out to ask me culture questions as well, and kind of how we went about implementing that at MPC. Mm-hmm. But yeah, definitely lots of positive feedback on the skilled trades posts. Especially, this week I've done a few posts on what's going on with our colleges and mm-hmm. how they're struggling, while at the same time we're desperate for all these skilled trades people. It doesn't make sense.
So in your opinion, are they struggling to fill the seats or to get funding from our government to put the education forward, or some combination of both?
Yeah, I'd say it's a combination. Again, I'm learning as I go. Mm-hmm. So I've just recently learned that funding to colleges from the provinces has been frozen for over a decade. Tuition has been frozen for 5 years now. Okay. And so those are kind of what led to colleges investing heavily in attracting the international students.
Okay.
And then they kind of became reliant on them because they were a huge source of income. And then with the cutbacks from the federal government now, they're scrambling. There's no immediate replacement for the income, so now they're scrambling to cut costs, laying people off, and going to be cutting programs. And we know all the most of the skilled trades programs are expensive to run because of the facilities and equipment required. They're struggling to find enough good skilled trades teachers.
Right.
So, yeah.
So when international students come in, the colleges can charge them more. Essentially, they're not being subsidized. So for them, it's a bit of a windfall to attract foreign students.
Yeah. I don't know the exact number, but I think I would say approximately at least 3 to 4 times the tuition that domestic students are paying.
And that's significant. And then you bring up the other point too, to run a program where you can actually teach students about the trades. And I mean, our industry is definitely capital equipment heavy. So you're relying on, maybe industry making donations of outdated or equipment that's perhaps past its prime, or coming up with benefactors that will donate money to allow the purchase of more up-to-date equipment to train on. But yeah, it's not an inexpensive type of program to administer, say, versus a traditional classroom setting where you've got a professor giving lectures and maybe 1 or 2 teaching assistants, on the back end of things working with students. Yeah. That's a much lower cost thing to try and deliver. But here we are. We need these people in trade, so we have to figure out how to make this happen. And if there are any rich benefactors out there, consider donating to community colleges.
Yeah, for sure.
So I've
had. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say I'm a little bit more curious about, about LinkedIn. Has that been a good tool for you to get the message out?
Well, I think so. I'll be honest, though. Up until I opened that account in late May or early June, I'd never been on social media ever, not even a Facebook account.
Wow. Well, you're doing a great job.
Yeah, I am. I'm really the last person who should be giving advice on any social media platform, but it seems for reaching out to other businesses or people in the trades, it seems to be the best platform.
Yes, I would agree.
I'm doing. I started that in June. I think the end of August, I started a Facebook account and an Instagram account. And the Facebook account was more to try and get the information out to parents, because there's not as many kids on Facebook. But the Instagram was also a combination of students and parents to try and get information out that way.
Right.
And I haven't made it past that yet.
Well, you're doing an awful lot. So I commend you on what you have done, and the posts and the information you put together. They're very, very well done. So congratulations.
For that. And that is, I will say that it is, before I got into it, I didn't realize just how much work it took. And I commend all those people who, they're putting hours and hours into the stuff they're putting on social media. It's not easy.
I know. Just this past weekend, I recorded a video trailer for my YouTube channel, and it's simple. It was a minute, and it took, I think from the time I started to the time I got a take that I actually liked, it was 2.5 hours. You're messing with lighting equipment and writing a script and doing everything. So I understand that of which you speak.
Yeah.
So tell me, at MPC, is there a formal structured program to support skilled trades or supporting apprentices? And, how does it look if there is something like that?
Yeah. Up until this point, we've always supported apprenticeships, and at any one time, we usually have 1 or 2 mold maker apprentices and 1 or 2 general machinists apprentices working in our CNC shop. But it hasn't been structured the way we would like it to. So that is a project that will be kicking off in the new year.
Okay.
And I would say that we want. It's not going to be perfect, obviously, to start, but we're going to try and model something internally a little more off the European system.
Okay.
Our apprentices are obviously still going to have to go through what we've got set up here in Ontario, but in-house, we want to make it a much stronger system. And we do have a German tool maker who's been in Canada for about 30 years, but he went through his apprenticeship in Germany. Got another mold maker who actually went through his millwright apprenticeship in Hungary. And so we're gonna draw on them as well and put together something more structured in-house and try and make sure we're producing, the best mold makers, machinists that we can amongst the best in Canada. And I mean, I think we're doing an okay job now. The response, because I know I've got a couple of people that work at Georgian College where all our apprentices go, and they're usually among the top of the class when they are there now.
Okay.
So, but we want to do even better than that. So, I don't know how long it's going to take, whether it's going to take a year, a couple of years to get this going. But, when we have this all set up, we want to have a solid document.
Right.
That, when we're interviewing candidates, we can say, yes, you're going to go to school and do your normal apprenticeship, but this is what we have to offer you for training. And then we won't limit that just to the tool room. We're going to put in the same kind of thing for even our engineering department, our setup and process guys.
Yep.
It's going to be a company-wide structure.
That's actually really great, because one of the key things to building a business is building the systems. I mean, once you have systems in place, you don't have to worry about so much. You know what you got to do, and you've got the instructions on how to do it. So it's quite freeing actually to have good systems in place. So I think that's 100% the right move.
And it's as you know, it's not going to be an easy project, especially when everyone's busy, and it's kind of, I don't want to say we're doing it on the side of our desk, but at times it might be, but we're going to have to make it a priority so that we get that done. And then it's kind of related to that. Another initiative that we'll be kicking off in the new year is a stronger mentorship leadership program company-wide.
Okay.
That, the younger people can apply to get into, and, if they're accepted, then we're going to have we'll be building the system, but having something in place so that we're developing the next generation of leadership at MPC.
And that's another key thing to building a successful business is your succession path. And
exactly. Succession planning. Yeah.
We like to think we're going to be in it forever, but that doesn't happen. Everyone retires or moves on to something else. And you do have to identify, sort of the understudies that will eventually take the limelight at some point in time. So it sounds like you're doing the right things, and that's great. And I do understand about the projects, where they're prioritized, because, in a manufacturing environment, your entire focus is dealing with customer orders and getting them out 100% quality, 100% on time, all the time. And without that, you got nothing. So I know prioritizing is a challenge. I believe me, it happens here too at my business. And I think every business can identify.
Yeah. But the great part here is both our owners are very hands-on. Have you ever met Dave and Tom?
Absolutely have. Yeah.
Yeah,
they're great.
So you're familiar with them. Yeah. And so they're 100% behind all of this. And so they're here to help make sure that it happens and it doesn't get forgotten about. So
good.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to have that ownership support. Yeah,
it becomes very hard to prioritize these things without, not just management, but ownership buying into it. So no, that's good. Next question, and we've touched on a number of things, but if you really had to sort of pull it into one or two things, what do you see as the biggest hurdle in promoting skilled trades as a viable career path. Perhaps disconnects between what it takes to get young people to choose this path versus what provincial or federal governments are trying to promote. Like, what do you see the actual issues?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I think unfortunately there's not one, there's many. And one of them is was definitely changing that perception about the skilled trades.
Yeah.
People still have that image of manufacturing work as dark, dingy, dangerous places, from what they've seen in movies or TV. So yeah, I probably haven't done enough of it, but I've been trying to get some images or video from our manufacturing facility. We have 2 buildings. Our newest one is only 2 or 3 years old.
Right.
Because it is, when I bring people through here, they are pleasantly shocked at the environment we have. They have counselors come through for a tour.
Okay.
And yeah, they were absolutely floored by how clean and bright it was when we were up in the offices, kind of giving them a presentation. They were making comments like, "Oh, this is just like Google or something." And,
yeah,
people,
it's a good
it's
point.
not what people expect. Yeah. So I think that is a huge one. And then, our education system, as we talked about earlier, it's going to take a while. It's not going to be fast, but we have to change that perception of the skilled trades as a desirable career path and not, that's where we send the kids who can't do anything else with their lives.
Good point.
Unfortunately, I believe it's been the way it's been traditionally.
Yeah.
And that's what talking about the education system. Those aren't the kids I want. I want the kids who could go to university. They've got awesome problem-solving skills.
Right.
They're curious.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't know about the trades and know that they could be successful. Those are the kids that we want at MPC. Those are high-achieving kids.
Yep.
I've been dealing with Elaine McLaughlin, who is the OEAP rep for the Simcoe County Board.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something else I've learned in the last couple of years. They have started for the younger kids in elementary school, putting together just kind of like cardboard cutouts, those things that you can color,
mm-hmm.
but then it's cardboard that you can form into a house or something. For the really small kids, they're putting together coloring books on the skilled trades.
Okay.
So just to start exposing the kids to that at a younger age. I think so. I think we need to keep building on that. And our education system hasn't really changed in over 100 years. It's go sit in a classroom and sit at a desk and do your work.
Yep.
Which we know is not how, I don't want to say most people, but probably 50% of people, it's not the best way for them to learn.
Correct.
The best way for them to learn is doing stuff with their hands,
mm-hmm.
being active. So I'm not sure what the answer is there, but I think we have a big opportunity if we could somehow revamp or work that into our education system.
It would be tremendous. It would really enrich in it.
Yeah. And again, we know with the European model, and I'm not an expert on it, but at some point around grade 7 or 8, I think they kind of pick a stream,
mm-hmm.
whether it's more the vocational or university stream.
Yes.
And their courses are tailored to that. And it doesn't mean, the way someone described it was, say you want to be they use this example, a police officer. You can still get into that no matter what path you take.
Right.
It's just at different levels.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure exactly how that looks for the different skilled trades, but I think it's definitely something we need to look at. Definitely getting more shop classes back into not just high schools, but elementary schools is going to help with all that.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, when I was in high school, we still had the shop and the tech classes, and I took as many of them as I could because I found it interesting. I think grade 9, you had drafting, automotive, electronics, and electrical, and there was a distinction between electronic and electrical work. But I thought it was just a great series of things to learn to round you out as an individual. But I already knew I wanted to go to work for the family business, injection molding, so I was doing everything I could to set myself in that direction. But even if that opportunity didn't exist for me, I think I still would have gravitated to doing a lot of those types of things because I just naturally found them interesting, and at least pursue what you're interested in. You're not going to go wrong doing that, but you have to know it's available. So
Yeah.
that's the real catch. Darryl, I think we're sort of getting to a point where I'd like to wrap things up, but if you maybe just had one or two comments, what would be the best thing that industry people, not just within the organization, but just maybe our industry, what could we do to support the development of skilled trades?
I think, as I've found over the last few months, to get on social media and speak about the skilled trades, you don't have to be a self-proclaimed expert, or your videos don't have to be absolutely perfect. It's more important just to get the message out there. That's an easy one. I'd recommend, working with your local school boards and colleges. With the high schools this year, I got our MPC on the list so that we're available for field trips if anyone wants to bring classes out here for a tour.
All right.
And then I got on the list for speaking, speaking engagements, going to schools to talk about the skilled trades. And I know for a fact that there's very, 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 very few people on that list. So getting out there to share your knowledge, those are probably the easiest ones. It's probably easier for bigger companies, but working with colleges, I just found out a few weeks ago, Centennial College, in the last year and a half, just bought a brand new injection molding machine. I can't remember if it's an 80 or 100 ton.
Mm-hmm.
And they're putting programs together around that and looking for industry partners to customize courses.
Well, super. There's the answer. Yeah. So it's from an industry standpoint, work with educational institutions, if it's high school or grade school. Yeah. I love the field trip concept. It all of a sudden brought to mind field trips that I took with, in grade school. I don't think we ever went to a manufacturing facility, which is unfortunate, but we did all the other requisite things that happened back in the 70s and 80s. But I think that's a great idea. And certainly speaking, again, I commend you for your efforts there. And
yes. And then, sorry, just one.
Yeah, go ahead. Please. No, go ahead.
One last thing I forgot. Another one would be taking on high school co-op students or college co-op students. OEAP is a great program to get, the kids can do their co-op at a high school. Mm-hmm. Advanced OEAP or accelerated OEAP is it's not available with every trade, but for our precision skills trades. They can actually sign up for a co-op their last semester of high school, and then in May and June go to Georgian College and take their level 1 apprenticeship schooling.
Okay.
And then they graduate high school already finished level 1 and with 5 or 6 months of their hours in. So they're well on their way to, getting their ticket by the time they're 21.
Jeez, that's fantastic. Darryl, we've got to wrap it there. I would really like to thank you again for your time coming on the show and talking about such an important topic. It affects our industry, it affects our youth, and it affects. It's not overstating. It affects the productivity of our nation too. So, thank you so much for everything that you're doing.
Yeah, and thanks again for having me, Kurt.
Great. And that's it for the episode. And that's a wrap on the show for 2024. Again, I'd like to thank Darryl Gratrix from Moulded Plastic Components for coming on the show to talk about the skilled trades. I really encourage you to support our youth who have made the decision or are thinking about making the decision to enter the skilled trades. We need them. If you have questions or comments about today's show or a suggestion for an upcoming show, please contact me through that plastics guy on LinkedIn. Further, consider following Simcoe Plastics on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, where I post the majority of the content, and subscribe to our newsletter through the Simcoe Plastics website. And I'm on LinkedIn personally. Our December newsletter went out last week, and we are working on more exciting initiatives that I can't wait to share with you. Thanks again for listening. We'll be back with another show on January 6th. In the meantime, have a great holiday break, and we'll talk to you again in 2025. Bye for now.